New Canon Speedlite, Sigma RF lens development, and your questions coming up.
Delivering informative capability-based reviews and tutorials on camera gear, filming techniques, and content creation.
Hi, I'm Simon and this is The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, please like and subscribe as it really helps my channel grow. And all the links to everything I talk about in this video I've placed in the description down below. But before I get into your questions and answers, I have some news. I have a bit of an update for you. So Canon apparently is planning on releasing a new Speedlite alongside the Canon EOS R5. And Sigma was planning to make an announcement to state their intentions, their plans to develop lenses for the RF mount. Canon Rumors goes on to say that these claims of these lenses, well, they're going to be unique. So that ought to be interesting. This video is the beginning of a new segment about answering your questions. And I'm doing this because I'm getting an awful lot of questions and comments as my channel's continuing to grow. And I'm having trouble keeping up. And in a lot of cases, I'm kind of repeating the same thing in multiple videos, in multiple areas. So to try and communicate more publicly answers to questions, I'm coming up with this new video series. I'm going to try to do it weekly, but it really depends on how well it's received. If I wake up in the morning and I've only got 50 or 100 views, then okay, point taken. You guys really don't care about this kind of video, and I won't do it anymore. But if I wake up and I see about 1,000 views, well, that tells me there's enough interest to do this. So what I'll be doing is, in that case, I'll be publishing a video weekly. I'll be soliciting your questions and comments. Well, if you've got a comment, depending on the comment, I might include that as well. So go ahead, check the community section of my channel, and it's right in there where the polls are that I'll be putting these solicitations for questions. Now, I do want to thank everybody who's participated in this week's, and let's go on to our first question. This question is by Sean Ryan. Sean says, you mentioned a few times in the last videos that you're reporting on Canon Rumors because that's where the leaks are. Is this because you're getting negative feedback from pro Sony or Nikon people? No, not at all. If you take a look at Canon Rumors, Sony Alpha Rumors, all the different rumor sites, what you're going to notice is that right now, actually going back to about January, there's so much information, there's so many news items coming out on Canon bodies. If you look at the other sites, what you're seeing a lot of is a lot of news. Yes, there's a lot of news on lenses, on accessories, and on sales. There's very little on, for example, the Sony Alpha bodies themselves. There's very little on what Panasonic's doing, like their time-of-flight autofocus system. I'd love to know more about that. I'd love to know more. And if there was more, I'd put it out there. Now, if you happen to be in the know and you want to provide me with information on Nikon or Sony or Panasonic, then get in touch with me. I'd be happy to report on what you have to say. So, yeah, no, I know, and I can tell from the polls I've conducted that the majority of you, I'd say about a good 70% of you, 70 to 80% of you are Canon users, but I've noticed that change a little bit lately with more coverage on Sony. And I'm a camera fan. Yes, I happen to be with Canon. That's because my brother recommended I get a Canon many years ago. And most of you know, a good 60% of you know how this goes. Once you buy into a brand, once you have inventory, it's very expensive to move out, and you're not going to move out unless you've got a good reason. And that's why I'm with Canon today. All right, let's go on to our next question from Christian Vlad. Christian Vlad asks, how much do you think the Sony a7 III drops in price when new Sony Alpha camera comes out? This is a very good question. Well, I'm going to read this like a politician would read it. And I'm going to look at it from the point of view of a used camera and a new camera because both markets are affected. Both markets, the price will decrease. Now this year, because of what's going on, there's an extra supply and demand curve element that might make things more complex, but I'm going to completely ignore that and talk about how things work in a normal market cycle. I don't know if you've heard the expression, buy on rumor, sell on fact. Well, if you're looking at getting rid of your cameras and you believe that a new one is imminent, what you want to do to get the best price you can is you want to sell that camera before everybody else thinks a new one is coming out. And that's when you're going to get the price, but that's also when it's going to cost the most to buy a used camera. Now, as we get up closer to an announcement, there's going to be a lot more noise and you're going to see prices dropping a little bit more, but until you actually get that announcement, you're not going to see much movement in price. Now, when the announcement happens, you're going to see well, you're going to see a drop from the manufacturer, so new prices will go down. But the used price will be largely affected by many different factors. The new camera, is it seen as, wow, this is amazing? So we'll look at the Canon EOS R5, for example, or R6. This camera seemed to be amazing. If it actually exceeds expectations and is a truly amazing camera, then people will probably start dumping their EOS R cameras or RP cameras. But if it's not seen that as that impressive, then the price on used cameras won't go down as much. So that affects the used curve. Now for new cameras, what will likely happen is once that camera is actually released, you'll see a further price drop. And of course, the used prices will drop much more if that camera is perceived to have value. But I like to use tools. It's very hard, even though I do cameras day in and day out, for me to follow all the market trends. So I use simple tools, much the same way that you would track the stock price. So there's a couple of sites I use. For used cameras, I use eBay. eBay's terrific. Now what you want to do, you want to search closed listings and you want to see the actual closing price. So that's very important. You click on the advanced button to do that and you get to see prices of the 5D Mark IV, the Sony a7 III, Panasonic, whatever it is. That's a good way to get an idea of what the current market price is for a used camera and what you should be willing to pay for it or sell it for. Now for a new, I use photoprice.ca. Now at the top of the page here, you'll see that the prices are in Canadian dollars. That's a Canadian site, so that's, don't blame a duck for quacking. But as you move further down, or as we move further down here, what you can see is here's the US pricing. In the bottom chart, it's all US pricing, and in the chart just above, that's Canadian US pricing. So for those of you who aren't in Canada, which is most of the planet, this bottom graph shows you what the current price is of, for example, this Sony a7 III in the US over the last 2 years. And what you can see is something very interesting. Around December time, Sony cut the price by $200. And a lot of people thought this was the new lower price, hinting at a new camera coming out. And sure enough, the price stayed low for a while, but it's since come back up. What this chart is really good at, if you are looking at buying a new camera, go ahead and take a look. Are we sort of in a high point like we see right here? We can see in this chart that the camera's gone back up in price, and most likely it's at the highest point it's going to be. It's most likely going to come down in price over the next month or two. So I would hold off buying new at that price, or at least negotiate a lower price. All right, so hopefully I covered that question, Christian. Now Christian did have another question for me. And Christian's second question is, can you recommend a budget telephoto lens or some budget telephoto lenses for the Sony FE? Yes, I can. I've got 2 of them. But first I want to, the word budget, there's what the word means and there's what people think it means. To most people, the word budget means it's low end, it's cheap, it's economical, it's the lowest price you can pay for something. But that's actually not what the word means, and that's not how I use the word. Budget means how much I plan to pay for something. So for the past 3 years, I've been looking at getting a new camera, and I put in place a budget. Now each year that budget has gone up because the time has gone by and I've saved more money. So for this year, I had budgeted $6,000 for a new camera and lens. Now, I can spend more, which means I've gone over budget, or I can spend less, which means I've gone under budget. It doesn't mean I'm buying a budget camera. So I'm sorry for all that nasty definition stuff, but I do have 2 lenses for you. The first is the 70-300 f 4.5 to 5.6 at a price of $1,273 US. And then there's the 24-240 f 3.5 to 6.3 at $1,048. Now, if those prices seem like they're a little high, yep. You could have gotten either of these lenses for about, well, $100 less about 2 months ago. And I've noticed this across the board. Canon, Sony, go to B&H, and what you'll see is the prices for some of these lenses and bodies has gone up since the global economic situation. Now, these aren't the cheapest you can buy in lenses. Yes, you can buy lenses for $150, for $300, but once you start to get into telephoto, prices, they jump up pretty quickly. If you're looking for this kind of range, like 70-300 and 24-240, these are the prices you're going to see. If you're looking for a 24-105, well, I wouldn't really call that telephoto. You're not really going far. You're getting 5 times optical zoom. Both of these offer anywhere from 10 to 11 times optical zooms. Now, you can go even further than that. You can put extenders on your camera. But if you want to go 400, 800, 1200, You can do that, but now you start to look into $10,000 for a lens. So for a telephoto, from my point of view, I'd say that these are probably the two best budget-friendly lenses out there. The next question comes from Cinema Verite Production. What are your thoughts on image quality versus functionality of a camera? Which is important? Oh, I love this question. For those of you who've been me for about 6 months now, you'll notice I talk about capabilities quite a bit. To me, quality or functionality is not something I really look at. What I look at is the outcomes, what I want out of a camera. So most of the work I do is either YouTube or it's run and gun work, family type stuff, weddings, birthdays, that kind of thing. So my capabilities are, well, first of all, I need reliability. That's very, very important. I need reliability, and that involves battery life. That means durability of the camera. But I also need quality in terms of the product that I can produce. I want to be able to produce videos that are detailed for 1080 and 4K. And that's very, very important to me. It's not just about, see, if you look at on the box of a camera, you see, well, it's got 4K. Well, great, it's got 4K checkbox, right? Yeah, but when you look at capabilities, the 4K is not a capability. I'm not looking at producing a 4K video. What I'm looking at producing a video that captures certain emotional triggers. I'm looking at documenting something. I'm looking at presenting a subject in a certain way. And whether it's 4K or 2K or 1080 or 6K, whatever it is, well, that's really the output. So I might want to produce videos that are detailed. That's more important than anything else. I'd rather have a detailed 1080p or 4K than have the capability of 8K or 6K, because that doesn't matter so much. And you can have 4K, so if we look, for example, at the EOS R, a camera that many of us are very familiar with, it does pretty good 4K, but it's a little bit soft. And the problem with soft 4K, because of that anti-aliasing filter, is if you try to zoom into that image a little bit further, well, it's even more soft. You lose the detail, and that's not very good. What I like to do, and especially right now you see the video, it's shot on me. I don't really move, I don't cut in, I don't zoom out, because I'm shooting on a 7-year-old camera that's only capable of 1080p at 30 frames per second. That's the maximum it can output. So if I punch in a little bit, I'm going to be really blurry, so I can't afford to do that. So my next camera is going to be detailed 4K, like the R5, for example, or the R6, so I can shoot in 4K. I can still output in 1080p, I can output in 4K, but if I can simulate multiple different camera angles, I can punch in without losing detail, without it getting really noisy. So what I would recommend doing is focus on the capabilities you want. And if you're thinking about quality, then ask yourself, well, what is it that you mean by quality? What does quality mean to you? Because even the word quality, like budget, is a very loaded word. Quality itself, it's a quality item. Well, what does that mean? It has no meaning at all. If we think of quality control, for those of you who are familiar with quality control, what it is making sure the products we produce, such as this joystick here, that it can last a certain amount of time, certain many of hours of use, certain many of hours not in use, that it can handle being dropped, thrown, cursed at, whatever. And you will have actually quantitative measures for these. So it'll be able to last 10,000 hours of use. It can be dropped 3 feet. It can be thrown 3 feet. Well, if it meets that, then that's your quality that you're achieving for. There's no such thing as high quality or low quality. So really think about what that means to you. What is the capability? If you're doing photos, for example, well, are you a fast-action sports shooter versus a general ordinary filmmaker that's capturing everything from vacation photos to sports photography, but you're capturing your son and daughter where 7 frames a second is probably more than enough for you most times. Other things are, you want reliable, accurate autofocus. You might want redundancy of media, so dual SD card slots. But dual SD card slots is not the capability. And let me give you an example of why. I could talk for hours on this, but I won't. The 5D Mark IV has 2 card slots. Now, imagine there's 2 of me. I have a twin, okay? And my twin shoots photographs. That's all my twin does. Well, my twin would say, I love these dual card slots in the 5D Mark IV because guess what? I can have backup. I can shoot my photos and it'll automatically write them to both cards. So if one card fails, I'm covered. Okay. But for me, I just shoot video. Well, the 5D Mark IV, even though it has 2 SD card slots, video won't be dumped to both cards. Not in the same quality level that I'm shooting the first in. So in that case, I've asked for dual SD card slots as a function that I want, or a feature that I want, but it doesn't give me the result, the capability that I need. And the capability that I want is redundancy of media for video. So you see where I'm going. Ask yourself, what is the outcome that you want? And this changes the conversation. When you go to the camera store, they're always going to ask you in terms of features. And what you need to do is change the discussion so it's about capabilities. So that's what's more important. And for you, if image quality, if you're a photographer and you blow things up, well then you're probably looking for a camera, a high megapixel camera, not a very fast camera, but you want a high megapixel camera because it's very hard to have a camera that's both something like 61 megapixels or 80 megapixels and also at the same time shoot 30 frames per second because there's always going to be a trade-off there. There's only so much data you can put through on the bus at the same time. So excellent, excellent question, Cinema Verite. Daniel Shepard, he asked me, how do you prepare your speech before talking to the camera? Do you type it up and use a teleprompter? He goes on to say, I just can't believe how many videos that I've actually produced in the last little while. And, well, this is interesting. And it's not a simple yes or no question. So I do use a teleprompter, and I'm using it right now, but I'm not reading off of it. And if you've noticed, I've got a keyboard here, and I've got this joystick here. Normally the joystick is hidden under here because it's a bit of a distraction, but a keyboard here, nobody asks, why is a keyboard on your desk? All I do is I press the space button here and it advances what's on the teleprompter. Or with this one here, I can both go backwards and forward. So why am I using a teleprompter today? Well, I would say probably about 20%, no, I'm exaggerating, about 15% of what I'm talking about is coming off the teleprompter. So that beginning intro, or before the actual intro animation, I have an intro, and then right after that I have, hi, I'm Simon, and then the news. So that first part, it's word for word, and once I get into the news, it's point form, and then I'm ad-libbing. Then when we get down to the questions are pretty close to what have been given to me. Sometimes I reword them for grammar because it's important that I say things correctly, but then I actually put the actual quote on the screen. So everything I'm saying to you right now is coming off the top of my head. But the teleprompter is an incredible device. I don't have a crew. I have a 6-year-old son, and he's just not very good as a grip. I could ask him to hold up cards. He wouldn't be very good at it. He'd get bored after a while. He'd start making sounds. My wife, she's happy I make a few dollars off this, but she couldn't care less coming down here and helping me. She doesn't want to do that. So how do I try and make my productions look a little bit more professional? You ever looked at Tony Northrup or who else is it? Who else has a really good presentation? For the life of me, I can't remember now, but you look at Tony Northrup. He and his wife, they do have really good polished videos, but they also have people working full-time putting things together. They're not just doing it all by themselves. Me, I'm doing everything by myself. And then teleprompters like having a second set of hands. So when I do have videos where there's certain points I want to make sure I don't forget, I put it in the teleprompter. I use one of 2 apps. This app here, when you see the keyboard up, that's usually when I'm using these guys because I manually control the scrolling. For the video, mirrorless versus DSLR, that thing was probably a good 60 minutes and it was scripted word for word. Once in a while I went off topic or went off script, but most of the time I stayed on it. And I use a different teleprompter app. The links are in the description down below. I don't want to mix up the names because I have the worst memory in the world, and that's another reason I use the teleprompter. But I use another app, and what it does is it listens to my voice. So right here off screen, I've got a boom microphone, and that microphone goes directly into an iPad. And the iPad is actually what I use as the teleprompter. It's the full-size version. It's the cheapest one. You don't need a lot of memory. I just got the basic iPad. And then I got the Glide Gear TMP 100. And so the iPad more or less sits right here. And then I have a screen that's at a 45-degree angle like this. and, well, actually it's a 45-degree angle like this, so the words come up and I can see it here. And the camera shoots directly through that piece of glass sitting on top of the tripod. So that's the technical stuff. So how do I manage to produce so many videos? Well, this weekend was a bit of a mistake. Normally I would put them all together, or I probably would have done 2 videos, but the weekends are usually very, very light. I didn't have plans to do a lot of videos. I thought, oh, it's midnight, I'm in bed with my wife, and I said, I gotta go do a video. She says, no, really, now? I said, yep, news just came out. I gotta get it out there because while it's midnight here, the day's starting in Asia, so I gotta get this out there, and that's where Daniel's from. He's from, well, not Asia, but Australia, so that's, 12 hours away from here. So that is very important to get this stuff out really quickly. So I quickly came downstairs. I didn't script it out. I basically copied the intro paragraph, the hi, I'm Simon paragraph, and then I just had a few points, put on the teleprompter, and just went to town. And all the videos this weekend were done that way. I've been doing this for about 6 months now. I've been working with cameras for many, many years. The EOS R5, you could put me on Jeopardy or some sort of game show and ask me questions about the R5, and I know them. I know them off the top of my heart right now. I know everything that's been published on the R5. I know it. I can easily pull it out of my head. But the key is using the teleprompter to remind me what I need to say. So thank you for your kudos, Daniel. Hopefully that answers your question. I've had an awful lot of influxes of subscribers in the last couple of weeks. So if you're new here, thank you so much for tuning in. If you do have any suggestions, if you think there's something that I can do that make this channel a lot better, go ahead and offer me a comment. I do listen. I don't always do as you ask or suggest, but I do take them to consideration. And my channel has improved dramatically in 6 months because of the support you guys have given me. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. All equipment used and notes are placed in the description box, show more box, or down arrow thingy next to the title on the mobile app.